T-minus 24 seconds. We have a go from the range. You are clear to launch. First stage actuators locked in.
Just look at the camera, don't look up.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Ignition. 2, 1. Engine running.
Good afternoon and welcome to Space Technology Live, Jobs in Space. My name is Zoe Brown, marketer for Tech Equipment, and I am joined by
Khalid Katouri, R&D engineer at Tech Equipment.
Molly Fernier, civil engineering student at Loughborough University.
and we're live at the
National Space Centre! Can't you tell?
Yes, we are basically stood underneath a rocket today. So, what's in today's 30-minute session then?
The space technology of the present that was shaped by the past.
Questions for NASA intern Bobby Randolph.
And career options for a job in space. As this is live, we'll try and answer any comments you leave. Now, it's time to
Blast off!
Space technology and travel are getting a lot of attention, whether it's celebrities flying to space, Mars exploration missions, or building advanced telescopes to collect infrared light from distant stars and galaxies to further understand our universe. For the past years, space news has made a lot of headlines.
But it's not a new thing, is it?
In fact, it is not a new thing. Since ancient cultures, people were were interested in understanding what's beyond our universe and also to help their life using astronomy. The Babylonians, for example, tracked Mercury, Mars, Venus, and Saturn. The Greeks were the first to prove that Earth had a spherical shape, and the Chinese were the first ones to document a supernova. Today, the advancement in space technology not only helps us further understand the universe, but it also affects our daily life in a lot of fields. I'll give you examples: communications, computing, environmental sciences, and understanding climate change. In addition to that, it helps us timekeeping and, most importantly, inspiring a next generation of scientists to keep asking the good question about what's beyond our planet Earth.
Space is something that has clearly fascinated many people, and why shouldn't it? It's an interesting subject, and this interest and desire has led to many technological inventions. Now we're going to talk about specific technologies that are used, and there's a lot more going on than you may think.
Take the spacesuit, for example.
With up to 16 layers, it's definitely not an average suit by any standard. There is so much tech going into each spacesuit that I actually had to write them down to tell them to you. The helmet, for example, has gold-coated visors to protect the astronauts from strong sun rays. It also acts as ventilation to provide the oxygen to the astronauts. The gloves are equipped with heaters, and its display control module contains the brain of the suit. It operates as a mini spacecraft as the astronaut is working. Well, there are a lot of technologies, but one of my favorites is the wind tunnels.
You guys should know about those. Look at how many wind tunnels you send out to colleges and universities.
Well, we love wind tunnels at Tech Equipment. Believe it or not, NASA has the world's largest wind tunnels, and it also has wind tunnels to replicate flow not only on Earth but on other planets like Mars and Venus. The Martian Surface Wind Tunnel was put into operation in 1976. It can simulate wind-blown particle flows under Mars, Venus, and Earth conditions.
Is there anything that we use today that was developed by space technology?
There is technologies, in fact, and one of them is very important for us to detect and diagnose diseases, which was inspired by the Apollo lunar landing, where the main aim of this technology was to generate computer-enhanced pictures of the moon.
Isn't that what MRI scanners are based on?
Exactly, it is. And this technology is significantly helping us as in day-to-day life. Other technologies are like satellites and navigation.
What about long distance phone calls and sat-navs?
Exactly, I was just going to say that. So with using satellite navigation, even before NASA sent people to space, they were sending satellites to orbit around Earth that significantly helps us to get rid of the old paper maps. And they are helping us to do long distance calls easily and effectively. So Molly, how does your study space look like?
Why are you asking? It's just a desk in the corner. It's not like it floats in mid-space.
Well, I want to tell you about a workspace that actually floats in space, and it's probably one of the coolest places in the universe to work at. It's the International Space Station. Believe it or not, it flies around the world every 90 minutes at 5 miles per hour. It's the second brightest object in the sky after the moon, and it's controlled by 50 computers. Only 230 individuals of 18 countries have been there, and in just 24 hours, the space station makes 16 orbits of Earth, traveling through 16 sunrises and sunsets.
Great views of space all day then.
Exactly. It weighs almost 453 tons, which is approximately 320 cars.
Let me introduce you to the Mars rover. Designed like any living creature, its job is to stay alive and explore. The rover's body protects its vital organ, the brain, which is the computer which processes vital information. The cameras and sensors give the rover information about its surroundings and environment. Also, its head and neck design gives it gives the rover a human scale view.
Well, a superhuman with a very cool job, you might want to say. It has a built-in geology lab, very advanced rocker suspension, rock vaporizing lasers, and lots of camera. Its job is basically to search areas of Mars for past and existing life condition capable of preserving a record of life on Mars.
Space tech is also used by us on Earth daily. For example, the optical industry quickly utilised the scratch-resistant lenses, which were designed by NASA, and they're used to make glasses 10 times more scratch-resistant than before.
Another example is athletic companies and the shoes insoles they do on some very cool trainers. Companies did adapt the technology to absorb the energy from your foot, hitting the ground, and then rebound it back to give you some extra lift. Neil Armstrong didn't know how right he was when saying, "One giant leap of mankind."
Thanks, Khaled and Molly. Now it's time for an interview with NASA intern Bobby. Bobby, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Amazing. Now, I know you're in America right now, so connection might be a bit, but hopefully it lasts this live stream. And remember to leave any comments you may have for Bobby in the chat. equally, we know you're eager to learn all about it, so let's just jump straight into the first question. Question 1, how did you get into NASA?
Well, for my undergraduate degree, I did that at Rutgers University. I majored in mechanical and aerospace engineering, and while there, I did some research with a professor in the mechanical engineering department. We mostly did work on 3D printing in space, or in space additive manufacturing. The project was officially titled. So this was funded in part by NASA. So after working at the lab at Rutgers University, which is located in New Jersey, sort of close to New York, I was able to have the opportunity to meet with some of the NASA people there, and they had an internship available. So I was able to apply for that, and luckily was accepted. And then I did that for 2 separate summers, working with the people who essentially sponsored our project at Rutgers.
So what would a typical day at NASA be then?
Well, it's not always, it's not like we're seeing astronauts every single day, although I did see some astronauts here and there, but a typical day, at least for me, was pretty similar to a typical day in any engineering type job. So my work was partially experimental as well as partially theoretical. So I spent about half my day doing work on the computer, like coding or creating CAD files for different parts. And then since part of my work for the 3D printing was to build the 3D printer, I also spent time in the machine shop and in a smaller lab downstairs where I was able to test out how the parts worked and then make some of the some custom parts as well that I needed for the project.
Next question is a question of YouTube, okay? Okay, Bobby, Anna has asked if you have named a star or a planet and if you've ever been to Area 51. And to be honest, I think we all want to know this.
Yeah, well, I personally did not name a star or planet. I did actually, one of my friends from Rutgers University, he had another internship in NASA Ames in California. He actually did help discover a few stars. I'm not sure if he named any or not, but unfortunately, I have no stars that I named myself. Area 51, I have not been there, and even if I had been, I probably wouldn't be allowed to say that. So.
Maybe not a star or something as interesting as Area 51, but something still really interesting. Next question. What's the next big thing at NASA that you're excited about?
Well, I'm personally excited about 2 separate things. First would be the SLS rocket, which stands for Space Launch System. This is essentially the rocket that NASA's hoping will be will bring astronauts back to the moon through the Artemis missions, as well as once that's done, to be able to go further deeper into space, like bring astronauts to Mars, hopefully, and then maybe even other areas. And in addition to astronauts, it's able to it's able to be morphed into different block segments. So it could carry a crew, or it could carry a payload, and depending on where exactly it's going, depends on how much weight it could carry. But it's definitely exciting to see us getting the capabilities again to go back to the moon and then even go beyond that. Second thing I'm excited about is the James Webb Telescope. So that launched back in December, right? Christmas Day, actually. And it was it's essentially not really a replacement of the Hubble, but it will be able to look back at light that was originated towards the beginnings of the universe and hopefully show us more information about how galaxies and stars came to be. So we'll be able to just get a lot of new information out of that we hadn't previously been able to get out with Hubble or other like ground-based telescopes.
Last question from me, Bobby. Is this the dream job or the next step in the career aspirations?
Well, of course, as going into NASA as an internship, so that's more of a stepping stone to do something bigger. Long term, I do like to. It's funny actually. During my first day of the internship, they said how many people are interested in going to Mars, and a few people raised their hand. And then it's how many people are interested in helping helping other people get to Mars, and pretty much everybody raised their hand. So that's why I think I'm interested in the most, as well as just doing research and designing newer technologies that are able to get us to deeper into space, or in the case of James Webb, say, to learn more about space. So I'm more interested in the research side as opposed to actually setting myself up there. But yeah, that's this is kind of I think that space exploration is a very exciting field, and a nice one to be a part of now.
Okay, next one. What is it about space or space technology that you're most interested in or looking forward to?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about, I mean, of course, there's multiple NASA centers. So I was at Marshall Space Flight Center. So the coolest thing there, what they're really well known for, is their engineering work for building the Saturn V rocket, as well as building the space shuttle and currently SLS. So I think that two coolest things I was able to see there were there's a static fire test stand and a dynamic test stand. So what that basically means is, of course, before launching, obviously you're going to want to test everything. So the static fire test stand is they essentially bolt the rocket down, or bolt one of the stages of the rocket down, and they'll fire all the engines. So it's quite, as you can imagine, it's quite a large building there, quite a large stand to make sure it's really stable. So they currently actually do that work now at another center in Mississippi, but originally during the Apollo era, they started doing the static fire test stands right there in Huntsville. And they claim actually the first time they tested it, all the windows in town, or almost all the windows in town, shattered just from the sheer force of it. So I mean, the bigger ones now, they do smaller rockets there now. The bigger ones, they do in a more remote location because of reasons like that. But so it was just a really cool thing to see the sheer size of it. And then the dynamic test stand, similar in the, they need to test everything. So what they actually did there was they subjected the rockets to different forces and essentially vibrations and stuff to try to simulate the what it would experience during launches, to make sure that everything is capable of standing up to what's going on, or standing up to what it will need to be experienced. So again, this is quite a large building. I'm not sure if there's able to be pictures shown or anything later of it. It's on Google if you Google it, but it's actually one of the largest buildings in the northern part of the state there, just because it was used for the Saturn V rockets as well as the space shuttle, and there's a similar one being used for SLS now. So it's just to be able to see the magnitude of these things was interesting for me.
What would be the dream research project?
Honestly, for me, there's a whole bunch of different things. I mean, I guess I just said I didn't want to be an astronaut, but at the same time, any research that would require the researcher to be on the space station or in space would be a very cool opportunity that I wouldn't pass up. So I think long term, currently I'm working more on the laser diagnostic side. So I am interested in that and how it applies to both testing as well as measuring like gas flows and everything like that. So that's sort of what I'm gravitating towards now. Who's to say though, it may change later on down the line.
Okay, Ava's asked, have you had any challenges, I think maybe from NASA or in personal life?
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, I'll take this in two separate parts. First of all, research in general, whether you're doing it at NASA or at a university or anywhere, there's always since you're doing new things that there may not be an answer for, there's always, every day is a challenge, and figuring out how to, what potential solutions there might be for the problem. And sometimes it's things that you may not even anticipate at first, but just problems that come up as you're getting further into your work. Second, a more personal challenge for me was my freshman year at Rutgers. I didn't really think I would be able to get into NASA or anything. I thought it seemed just too far-fetched and I should set my sights lower. But luckily then getting into sophomore year, I was able to get hands-on with a NASA-funded project at Rutgers before eventually going directly for NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, which is where I was at. And then, so I guess my thing for that is, don't worry if you apply a few times and get rejected, because I did apply for a handful of internships before getting the one that I did end up getting. So even if you do apply for a few times and don't get it, it's good to just keep applying. The only way that I would have not applied, the only way I wouldn't have gotten any internships at all is if I had just decided I'll never get it and not apply at all. That's your surefire way of, that was my surefire way of not getting anything. So.
Well, that's all the time we had from today for Bobby. It's now time to move on to the next section, which actually really nicely tied into the last two questions. So thank you so much, Bobby, and we'll speak soon. Now, let's go to Khalid and Molly to talk about careers.
Broad and diverse our university is, we can always explore it from different angles. Today, the process of space exploration missions goes through a lot of milestones and checkpoints, where the technical expertise will be a valuable asset to complete the missions. If you're an engineer, programmer, data analyst, or training to be an astronaut, you're welcome to hop on board this endless discovery trip of the universe.
We do understand that getting some jobs in the space industry can be very hard sometimes due to location, personnel, or health constraints. For example, a constraint to be aware of is citizenship. For some aerospace jobs in the UK and other countries too, you will need to have a proof of address for at least 5 years or be a citizen at the country to get the job. This is not the case for every aerospace job. However, it's a factor that you need to weigh in before applying for your next space job. However, don't let that discourage you from further learning or pursuing a field you like or a science you're interested in just because you couldn't get one job. Astrophysicists and aerospace engineers have a lot of opportunity on the ground in research, training, teaching, media and content creation, and of course, deployment of space technology on our planet. But careers in the space technology are not only limited to those studying astrophysics or aerospace. Other areas of engineering can help and develop use of space technology.
Yeah, exactly. Like Merck and Joni Valerio, who helped with something he's going to say next. But if you want to watch that video, it's one of our Becoming an Engineers, and you know what to do, it's in the links below.
Well, you could be a pharmaceutical chemical engineer working at Merck who suddenly sent a batch of crystals into space to investigate multiple protein crystallization. Or you might have a chance to be a research and development engineer working at Procter & Gamble to work with detergent systems to test microgravity conditions as low source use laundry solutions for everyday use on Earth. The point is that space technology and a job working in space is not a narrow field. Literally, it's an expanding horizon.
Well, that's it for today.
We hope you enjoyed Space Tech Live. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, but then you may also be thinking, why the hell is Techquipment at the National Space Centre talking about space?
We'll increase the space tech modules in engineering courses.
True. And we also have some projects that can help teach about space and engineering.
Techquipment has also got a blog that will help students.
Exactly. But remember, that's all we have time for today. If you like these videos, like and subscribe, or head over to our website where you can find all the information you may need.
We hope to see you soon.
Goodbye!